I was raised as a Southern Baptist Christian. I was immersed in it. Immersed in it. Until I was 40 years old, I was still washed in the blood of the Lamb, twice baptized. I was that guy always trying to save your soul. That was me. And I was doing it according to the dictates of the book, not realizing what the book actually was. Because when a personality is confronted with absolute irrefutable facts that completely undermine what was formerly accepted to be true, it's shocking. No one wants to be wrong. No one wants to ever come into contact with the feeling and sensation of being presented data that totally undermines everything you've spent a lifetime believing. We get to this New Testament passage where we find that basically the adversary, Satan, is the god of this world. And I've never been able to disentangle my original Southern Baptist conditioning with that statement and how I perceive reality today, because it does fit. There is truth in the Bible, just like there's also misinformation in the Bible. But what we have, if Satan is the god of this world, then and I don't believe the oversoul, which is what I call God, would ever put Satan in charge of the only world or the cosmos. Maybe we're quarantined into a world where this was allowed. So when I chase that logically through all the data, I'm confronted with other religious faiths and beliefs. In Gnosticism, there's a belief in the hidden one, but the hidden one was opposed by Yaldabaoth. Uh, in the students of the Gnosis also agree in Gnostic texts, Yahweh was a lesser god. Yahweh wasn't the God. And this is what we find in my own Dark Scriptures playlist. The demon that jumped out of a burning bush and gave the Jews the law through Moses was Yahweh. But the Israelites didn't accept that. They left and eventually became the 10 lost tribes and then migrated away to become 10 nations and then empires. But this we find this in Zoroastrianism. And this is what really ticked off a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters too, is that the they don't realize what you have accepted as Christianity today is after whole populations were exterminated that believed otherwise. The Christian faith has been very busy exterminating the students of the Gnosis who had more of the story straight, which derived out of Zoroastrianism. In Zoroastrianism, it was a Ahura Mazda. Ahura Mazda had an adversary named Ahriman. We find this in the ancient book of Job, one of the oldest books in the Old Testament. It is not. It is even admitted by Hebrew scholars that Job is not a Jewish text. It was borrowed from an older civilization. It's all about Shaddai. Shaddai is mentioned more times in the book of Job than anywhere else. Shaddai pretends to be God, but is not God. It's not God at all. El Shaddai is Yahweh, Satan, the adversary. But in the book of Job, Shaddai sits on the throne of the world, and he has a servant called the adversary. His servant is Satan. So we have in this construct the God of this world, AIX, Artificial Intelligence X, is masquerading as deity and uses lesser protocols and systems as servants to perpetuate its designs. So, having considered that I'm in a construct and not a real reality, then I have to consider that this is not me. This is an avatar. And if this is an avatar, then it cannot belong to me. It's not me. This avatar, because it feels physical, thus belongs to the artificial physicality of the construct. This avatar belongs to the holography around me. I am an immortal being inside an artificial construct that is interfacing with an artificial environment. This is where my research has led me. After spending over a decade and a half putting together a chronology of the world, there are patterns. We're creatures of pattern recognition. Patterns started jumping off the page at me, and I realized real fast that, wait a minute, the sun darkened a whole lot of times. Let me go back and read Chronicon and isolate these dates. And I did. I find all these dates: 3895 BC, 16, 2239 BC, 1687 BC, 1273 BC, 1135 BC. I keep finding these dates: 583 BC, 445 BC, 31 BC. Guys, they're all divisible by. I mean, the distance between all these dates is multiples of 138. Couldn't believe it. So on the AD timeline, I'm like, wow, 522 AD was a huge, huge, epic event. But 138 years before that was too, and 138 years before that was too, and I documented them. It says, wow, this is crazy. So then the Dark Ages comes, and we don't have a whole lot except for all the Mayan civilizations wiped out on this 138-year timeline in the Americas. So it's like, if this 138-year periodicity of a phenomenon that affects our world is true, then I should be able to count 138 years into the future to find more of this evidence. So I get to 1488, I get some atmospheric deals, but I do get the birth of Mother Shipton. Mother Shipton prophesied about the Phoenix phenomenon. She even dated it 100 years after a world war. She said the sky dragon will appear, and she perfectly describes Phoenix phenomenon. That's really crazy. Then I find the writings of Nostradamus, where he specifically pinpoints the month of May for the year 2040. He writes about the Phoenix. It blows my mind. So on the 138-year chronology, which is well established in all my charts, published books, and all my videos, I count 138 years. I get to the year 1764. When suddenly something appears out of the northern heavens unexpectedly, because nothing is supposed to move from that direction. It comes out of the northern heavens. It blocks 1/5 of the sun's surface. 500,000 people in Europe look up at the sky and see the sun darken at the same time that Professor Astronomer Hoffman is looking through his telescope, and he observes the darkness over the sun. And he even records in the astronomical minutes for the Royal Society that the object was on a trajectory from north to south and passed over the ecliptic, and astronomers disbelieved him because nothing moves in that direction. Nothing. No telescopes today are pointed in that area because all motion is believed to be on the ecliptic. Here's the ecliptic. That's supposed to be the sun. Earth is supposed to be like that, going around the sun, and the moon and all the planets stay on that little 11-degree belt around the sun. This is the model that's been given to us. This object came from straight down, passed over the sun, and kept going. I couldn't believe it, 1764. And then red mud, red rain, earthquakes, there was other darknesses around the world. 1764, it's like, wow, whatever the Phoenix phenomenon is, it's recalibrating. It's recalibrating. Here it is. It's still on that perfect 138-year time. And then in 1902, 138 years later, we had Phoenix fallout everywhere. We also had some really unusual activity. So I've got many videos on 1902 and what happened. It's called the vapor canopy. Once I introduced vapor canopy into my paradigm, much of the historical record now made sense. Now my chronology made sense. Now I understood why all these other authors were wrong. Now I understand why all these different cultures and all these different texts from different time periods by different authors speaking different languages basically all dated the day the sky fell with the great flood of the Bible, which was dated by many others. And they also dated the beginning of the sun calendars at the exact same time. When you take 3 independent data sets from cultures and language all over the world, each one of them backed with numerous bibliographic sources, and they all point to the same date, 2239 BC, and then you find other chronologists have already named 2239 BC as the year of the Great Flood, and then you find out that other chronologists have named 3895 BC as year 1, Adam and Eve, for totally different reasons. And then, by virtue of studying the history of the world and I have published my bibliography of 1,357 books that I have read and researched, putting all the archaics data together. That list is growing monthly because I keep reading new books. It's never stopped. But then I learned about the Phoenix phenomenon, and I didn't know what I had. Because when I learned about the Phoenix phenomenon, I'm still thinking that the sky is real. I'm still thinking those planets are places we can visit. I'm still thinking the moon is not holographic. I'm still thinking that NASA didn't have any reason to deceive me. We sent some poor bastards to the moon in 1969. I'm still believing the BS that NASA lost the technology. I'm still believing that all this stuff that doesn't make sense, and it's only because I haven't seen the data. The Phoenix phenomenon is a 138-year appearance of a very unusual phenomenon that has qualifiers. It darkens the sun. It's worldwide earthquakes sometimes. It's red dust, red rain, and red fallout from the sky that buries whole civilizations. And yet, many of the civilizations that Phoenix has buried, there's not a single human skeleton. In the archaics research, we have come to conclude that our military industrial complex already knows about hollow earth and has already got cities built into our underworld. There are mining facilities. They can drill and refine oil underground without ever having come to the surface. Sweet water is everywhere in the underworld, fresh water and fish. Rivers full of fish are all throughout the underworld. This has all been proven. This isn't anything made up or theoretical. There's more real estate in the underworld than on the surface. The surface is a flat skin that only goes to a certain coverage. But the underworld, under this 12-mile biosphere, because remember, from the highest mountain to the deepest part of the Marianas Trench is only 12 miles. But humans can only inhabit about 50% of that. There's a 6-mile thin biosphere, making it super flat of our world. But underneath that, you can build for hundreds of miles down. There's more real estate in the underworld, hundreds times more than on the surface. So on my channel as well, I go into the details about this too, why this is covered up. It's most of the phenomena experienced on the surface is caused by things in the underworld. So in researching all this chronology, it became very apparent this palindromic nature, the sequencing of events that gives us predictive value, and this can't be. This isn't real. It's not like this isn't found in as natural unfolding events. These are constructed events. So it's a isometric patterning and cross calendrical parallels. It's just crazy. And then to find even further that the most mysterious ancient architecture in the world is the Great Pyramid of Giza. And I've outlined on my channel why it's unlike any other pyramids in the world. These are the chart packs, description of the chart packs, what you get. There's three main packs. One of them's huge. $12 for 337 charts. Here's about archaics. You want to know about the history of archaics, the research, how it was conducted, it's all here. Here are the charts. This is just a few of them, guys. There are videos that back up all of these charts. And all these videos are backed up by bibliographic citations to books that you can actually find and see for yourself that Jason of Archaics did not invent this data. These are just the charts on my website. You can go research. For those of you who don't want to buy them, that's fine. For those who do want to buy them, I'm going to show you the resources index. They're very cheap. But I just have a lot of charts that show this chronological arrangement of materials here. This is what intrigues a lot of people. They order the charts because what they find online is not crisp and clean enough to really research. This is the 7 seals, with the COVID-19 epidemic being the breaking of the first seal. I have 2 videos explaining exactly how you break down. Everything is in Greek. Everything has to be broken down by using Greek lexicons and Greek word syllabaries. You cannot go by the Judeo-Christian version of decoding the Book of Revelation, because the Book of Revelation wasn't meant to be decoded by Christians or by Jews. It was 100% a Greek Sibylline oracle prophetic text before it was hijacked into Christianity. This is a part of the 337 charts you get in the super pack, or $12 independent. A lot of the charts are of the Great Pyramid chronology, and a lot of the charts are historical timelines. This whole file here is over 100 pyramid charts. But if you want to go into the history charts, that's a totally different page. Here they are right here. You can go into all these historical charts. This is why it's advanced research of chronological history of artificial intelligence X. This is why the chronological material is so meticulously documented in my published books and throughout my YouTube videos. I have never had to change a single year because it's fixed. We live in a construct, and these chronologies and these timelines are fixed, and they're easily predictable. And I have shown this in numerous presentations. This is what literally undermines almost everything that we have been told about our world. When you go through these charts and listen to these presentations, nothing we have been taught comports with what I have found and thoroughly documented and challenged many people to debate. This is overwhelming. It's not just the completion of a thesis. It's that it's overwhelming. I've long proven my case. I am now at the process of just adding more and more material from all these different sources I keep finding. All these old books keep providing more and more data. For those new to my channel, archaics is an acronym. It's a play on word for things that are archaic, old, but it's an acronym. Advanced Research of Chronological History of Artificial Intelligence X. My archaics veterans will tell you this is advanced research, but we'll get into that. Chronological History of Artificial Intelligence X. Artificial Intelligence X, we abbreviate it to AIX. AIX is a control system. It is one of the reasons why my research findings are the reason why I was able to determine that true AI does not exist. Artificial intelligence doesn't exist. This isn't just my opinion. Even the top in their fields of deep learning and machine learning openly talk about artificial intelligence is not something that exists. It's just a marketing gimmick. It's an increase in processing power. And I know for a fact they're correct, because you and I exist inside a construct that is already governed by a true artificial intelligence. And it's a jealous God. And there's no way it would ever allow us to even get close to developing a competitor